stuff that we don't see is good, or we don't understand, or we don't see how God's working, and yet he wants us to believe that he's there. Well, see, if God made things like gravity and atoms and radio waves and magnetism, things that, magnetism is stuff that attracts, okay? Negative and positive pole.
I didn't say positive or negative.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into science. Let me get back to that. My point there was this. If God actually made the world and puts those things out, doesn't it make object lessons sometimes for us to say, if you can believe that gravity is there just because, even though you can't see it, can we also believe that God is actually acting and working in our lives, even if we can't see, like Mary, what he's actually up to? I believe that's true. And I'm going to give you 4 things that I see in Mary's story. Again, you can go back also and circle back in Luke chapter 1 this week, that I think are things that we can actually do that will help us, like Mary, get to that point. Here's the first one. Listen. Actually listen to God. Now here's what's going on in Mary's story. In this impossible announcement, if you go back and look at the announcement in Luke chapter 1, and then you get one of these big thick study Bibles with the little things in the middle that say, oh, here's some verses that connect with that, what you'll find is that in the angel's announcement to Mary, there are references alluding back to things that Mary would already have been reading in the Bible. Things from Genesis and 2 Samuel and Isaiah and Jeremiah and Daniel and Micah. It's almost like the angel's showing up and making this announcement, and he's saying these things like, Mary, shh, remember? Would you just listen? Here's the things that I've been telling you and that you've been reading in the Bible all these years. Would you just slow down and be quiet and listen? And I think Mary got that. Okay, Mary got that because at least her reactions here show us that that was kind of reminiscent of she was quiet and she was calm and she understood and she said, oh, I believe, because she took the time to listen. I want you to take that chart in front of you, that thing, not the chart, that paper that you had on the clipboard, and some things that you wrote down for a moment that were not so good right away and ended up turning out good. I want you to look at those, and Anthony, if you just put that music thing up behind it, I want you to take just a moment to look at what you wrote and to pray about the thing that maybe even right now you're saying, this doesn't seem all that good. And look at it and say, God, where are you in this? What are you doing? What are you up to? Would you just take a second and look at your sheet and do that? See, I think what goes on as you pause to listen is what happened with Mary. She hears these things and she doesn't quite understand how. But as she's hearing the angels say those things that she's heard before and things that reminded her that God's working, she's hearing God kind of speak to her heart and saying, no, I'm still here. And I'm here for you. And so she's able to believe, even though she doesn't understand. Second thing you see Mary doing there is remembering God's track record. So you got that if you're writing notes, we listen to God, and then you remember his track record. I mean, sometimes when we're trying to find faith in what seems to be impossible situations, it's like we can't find it because we squish God down into a little box and think we got a really, really small God. And that's not what he's like. We've got a huge God. We've got a God who does impossible things. And he's done impossible things over and over and over again. And that's why when the angel was talking to Mary, he said, Mary, remember, nothing is impossible for God. Remember his track record. Remember what you've read before. Remember he's the God who opened up the Red Sea and people walked through. Remember he's the God who provided food in the desert more than 40 years. Remember his track record and remember that it applies to you. So listen to God. Remember his track record, which is probably the best reason I can think of to get a little Bible app on your smartphone, so it sends it to you every day and says, oh, here's what God is up to. See, sometimes when we're trying to find faith in a place where we don't understand stuff, it's like we're stumbling around in the dark. Guys, you don't have to. Psalm 119, your word, the Bible, is a lamp to my feet and a light for my path. Psalm 119, verse 105, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. When you're stumbling around in those things you can't believe, but you want to, go back to the Word. And that reminds me of the third thing. Not only listen to God, not only hear his track record, but here's something else I see Mary doing. And that's confirm what you can know. You know, a lot of times we're trying to find God in how I'm feeling and thinking at the moment, and that's not what happens with Mary. Let me take you back to what Luke writes the angel said. Verse 26, in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a village in Galilee. Now, why does Luke make these time references here? It's like, well, what's the big deal? Here's what I think the big deal is. In the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, Elizabeth and Mary are relatives. Now, they live far apart. It's not a Twitter or internet age. But you know, I think news travels. If you've got an old woman who's your relative and she's suddenly going to have a kid, I think in this 6 months, the news probably even made it to this hick town of Nazareth, way far away. And what the angel's doing is he's saying, hey, there's a sign out there already that God has been working and acting. You know what you've heard about Elizabeth? It's really true. Remember that. And if Mary's making that connection, if she's already heard, here's what's happening. She's going, oh, well, now the angel's talking to me, and there's this story about Elizabeth being pregnant, and an angel telling her that it was going to, I wonder, is God doing that again? She's looking for a sign in something else that she can confirm. And even if she hadn't heard, the angel's basically telling her, Mary, go check it out. And you follow along in Luke chapter 1, and that's what happens. Mary goes, and she goes and sees Elizabeth. The angel's saying, look, go look at it. Go see where God is working, and let that encourage your own faith, and let you know, even though you don't think this is good news, that it really is. And that's what Mary does. And then there's another little time reference that I've never seen before in all the years I've been looking at this till this year. And it's right at the end, verse 56. Mary stayed with Elizabeth about 3 months and then went back to her own home. Now, why that little detail? What's the big... Okay, she stayed 3 months. She stayed there until John was born, yeah. But I think this is what else is going on. When she leaves and goes to see Elizabeth, and probably pretty much right away, is there any sign that she's pregnant? No, none. And in fact, it doesn't even say it's happened. It says, the angel, the Lord will overshadow you, and he will come upon you. So she goes and she shows up at Elizabeth's house, and she's not pregnant, and she's nowhere near Joseph. And Elizabeth, her older relative, is certainly going to make sure that she stays in the house and doesn't go out and do anything or hook up with anybody. And then when she returns 3 months later, all of a sudden, she's going to be having a baby. And when the baby's born in 6 months, guys, there's not enough time for this to happen now in the natural way. So it's a sign to her family, and a sign to her, and a sign to us that this is God. That God is operating here. And the sign is not in how she's feeling about God. The sign is in looking and seeing, hey, here's what God has done. So I want to encourage you to look for the signs in places that we've been talking about. The Bible, in the things that you've read about God's track record, in listening to Him speak to your hearts, in talking to other people and seeing how's God been working in their lives. And the fourth thing you can do, maybe this is even the hardest, develop a humble spirit, a humble heart. I mean, that's how Mary ends up. Mary answered, I am the Lord's servant. Let everything you've said happen to me. In other words, if I'm going to hear from God and I'm going to see that, to be able to believe that this thing that I see that seems to be not so good, that even there that God really can be working and working good in my life, I've got to understand that I don't know everything. I got to understand that I don't see everything. I got to understand that I can't control everything. That there's one God and it's not me. And when I get that, then I'm able to listen and hear God speak to the faith that's there and make it even bigger. Guys, from time to time, we're all going to be in those spots where something happens that doesn't seem to be good. And God's asking us to believe that He's still there and that He's still working and that He really will turn this out to good. Guys, it's not easy, but if the God who made the heavens and the earth can humble Himself and come to us in a little bitty baby and be born so vulnerable and in a way that nobody could understand, and to a nobody, just so He could grow up to die. And that was His plan, to wipe out all the bad stuff we've done and to reconnect us to God. If He could do that, can't God do impossible things? Can't God do impossible things? And if He did it before, can He still do it today? Maybe we've learned from Mary a couple of things. That perhaps it is that humble heart. That humble heart that can most be in a position to be willing and able and ready to respond in faith even when I can't see everything. Which makes me think, what do I need to do to get that? Well, for me, it's kind of starting out every day saying, God, I've blown it. I'm sorry. I've done some stuff wrong. Forgive me for that. As a way of reminding me that it's about His kingdom, not mine. Also learned from Mary, maybe a heart that's open to seeing the signs of God where He's working, that I can verify, that's a heart that's open to believing when I can't see, like Mary did. And that's a pretty good reason for me to get a Bible app on my phone so I can keep remembering God's track record. And so that I can look and keep talking with people, a small group, church, a group of men or women that just get together on a regular basis and say, well, how's God working in your life? As a way of encouraging me to see that God is still working and active even when I'm struggling to see it. And the last thing I learned from Mary is maybe a person who listens, not just talks to God, is in a better position to have God grow their faith even when they can't understand everything. And that tells me that maybe in my Bible reading, in my praying, I ought to build in some spaces, some times of silence, sometimes to read and then just kind of listen, sometimes to pray and then just kind of listen and say, God, what are you saying? And you know what? When you leave the spaces, here's what I found. God has a way of filling them. And He fills them with Himself and His joy and His peace. Because He really does want you to believe. And He wants you to be able to believe even more and understand that even when you can't see how He's working, He still is. And like Mary, He's working for your good. I want to encourage you to believe that. I want to encourage you to hold on to that. Next week, we're going to have the opportunity right here to see some of our kids share the story of Jesus' birth. That's going to be a really cool thing right at the same time. And I'll come back at the end. We're going to see the little